of the white-tailed deer ranges far and wide. Host Larry Wiseman takes the hunter's trail to two unique regions, finding that the Big Bend of Texas and the Big Buck Country of Illinois present similar challenges.
Winchester's World of Whitetail is brought to you by the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation, education, and ethical hunting worldwide. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. The Buck Bomb blows away traditional scents. And by Bad Boy Buggies, they'll never hear you coming.
In the world of whitetail, the Carmen Mountains of southwest Texas present a perfect backdrop for desert deer hunting.
Can't wait to get out here on this ranch to hunt with Steve Jones, with Backcountry Outfitter. Steve and I have known each other for a bunch of years. I've hunted with him in the past for turkeys and antelope and things like that out in New Mexico. The species that we're hunting is a white-tailed deer naturally, but it's a subspecies called Otocoileus virginianus carmenensis.
Well, they're little Del Carmen whitetails, what these little deer are. They're named after the Sierra del Carmen Mountains out of Mexico, which is south down here, just across the river. It's just a neat little deer, very much a hunter's type of hunt.
An extension of northern Mexico's Sierra del Carmen range, the Carmen Mountains form an island of whitetail habitat high above the floor of the West Texas desert.
We get out literally the first morning and we hear that there's a front coming. You know, and there's reports that it may spit a little snow, you know, may a little bit of sleet, but you know, you don't think a whole lot about that. Well, I guess we should have, because once it started snowing, it didn't want to quit. We're trying to hunt, we're trying to glass. It made it extremely difficult, and of course too, the animals just kind of socked into the closest, deepest cover they could find. I mean, it really just drastically changed this entire world for really the better part of that first day.
I'd tell you where I'd be, bedded down and having myself a nap.
Guess that's the difference between the hunter and the hunted.
More like the numb and the rest of us.
Just look right
I'll
there.
look back over this the other way for a little bit.
See if I can see. You know, this little snow will really make them show, you know?
Yes, sir, it will. Steve suggested we take what he called the loop road, because there are a lot of places where we could stop and glass either out of the vehicle or walk a little way and where you could cover great amounts of country. Saw a little mule deer or so, and then we're driving along, and we've come to a point and we stop and we're glassing, and Steve goes, up there on the hill, right up there. And about, 700-800 yards away probably was this little buck, little Carmen Mountain whitetail buck, probably weighed all of 110 pounds on the hoof.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Want to go after?
You know, that's just a darn good Carmen deer.
Good. So immediately we go, that's a good mature deer, and that's really what I hunt for, is just a really nice mature deer that's representative of the species. And this being a little bit of different subspecies means a deer that's this big is an absolute monster. We decided the best thing for me to do is to drop off, go back, drop off, work my way up the hill, try to keep the cedars between me and where we think this deer is up here. took about 30 minutes to work my way to where I thought I was within about 100 yards or so. And I'd got on one side of a big old cedar tree, and I'm glassing, and I can't see anything, but I know where I'd last seen that deer was just a little bit to the right. Backed off, walked around the other side, glassed up there, and lo and behold, there's something up there in the brush.
There's a deer body facing right toward us. Can't see his antlers, but I can see his face, see his eyes.
And I can tell it's a deer. It's got to be this buck, this really nice, big 8-point Carmen Mountain whitetail. Set up the shooting stick, put that rifle up there. So I was trying to find a hole because all I could see of this deer, it looked like he was facing right directly toward me. Now I could see his nose, I could see a little bit of his bottom part of his legs, his brisket, and I could see just about where the ears were and just where the antlers came up. And I could tell for sure it was a buck. No doubt it was a buck because I see where the antlers came up. All he needs to do is just turn the slightest little bit, and I'm waiting and waiting, and finally he turns.
He went down, didn't he?
Deer goes down, and I am just absolutely elated. I know I finally have taken a really good Carmen Mountain whitetail deer.
Better walk up there. Got him right there past that tree. He should be back up there just beyond that dagger, I think. There's a deer right up there, but he doesn't look as big as what we saw from the bottom.
Walk up there, and here is this most beautiful little 6-point buck.
He's a beautiful little deer. Golly, absolutely gorgeous. They're tiny.
Pretty little 6-point. That wasn't the buck I thought I was hunting for, shooting for. Just the way it is. Had no idea there was a second buck bedded up in here. We only saw one buck come in, and that was it. But look how pretty they are. So gray by comparison to other whitetails. Ears a little bit bigger by comparison too. Not as big as mule deer, but by comparison they have fair-sized ears. But look at the cape on that thing. It is absolutely beautiful. Pretty little 6 points. Boy, if this one's that pretty, I can only imagine what that big one was that I saw in here. I wonder where he went. The only thing that I can figure out is that that buck was exactly where the buck that I had seen go into that thicket, but the old buck, evidently, when we weren't watching, when I wasn't watching, working my way up there, he slipped out the backside.
That's not the deer we were looking at, is it?
You know, it's not.
Neat deal. Very, very pretty deer.
Got to ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
Can I make arrangements to come back with you next year?
You bet, yes.
I
think we can do better, but that's a beautiful buck.
Well,
that's a good looking deer.
I am thrilled to death with him, I'll tell you. I mean, it's not so much the size of the animal. He wasn't that really big buck that I was after up there, but just the stalk, the hunting, the snow. When I get that deer mounted and put him on the wall, I'm going to be, and I am just as proud of that deer as deer that I've shot in the past that scored in the 170s and 180s of the regular whitetail.
While a Texas-sized storm front made for a challenging hunt in Big Bend country, Larry nonetheless put a successful sneak on a Del Carmen whitetail buck.
Golly. Pretty little 6-point. That wasn't the buck I thought I was hunting for, shooting for. Just the way it is.
Dang, Larry, I know the Carmen deer are supposed to be small, but I've seen a bigger rack on a jackalope.
Yeah, I know.
Astute hunters don't limit their time in the field to autumn deer season. For Larry, spring shed hunting can be as rewarding and revealing as any opening day. as Wisehoon explains in Larry's World of Management.
During late wintertime, and especially early spring, these whitetail bucks need a lot of high quality nutrition, a lot of protein, a lot of energy. As you look at this, it worked out perfectly. Put this stuff out about 4 or 5 days ago, hoping that I could concentrate some of these bucks in an area on a high quality food item, and that's exactly what it did. Look at the shed antler. Now that's a good looking buck. You know, there's a lot of things that you can learn about whitetail deer from finding shed antlers. Number one, you know exactly where that deer was when he cast his antler. But then on the other side of it, if you look at it real closely, it'll give you some idea, of course, how big he was, but also something about the age. If that deer is a 2 or 3 year old deer and he's on a good nutritional level, if you compare that pedicle attachment area, again where it attaches to the skull, to that main beam just above the burr, if that deer is a 2 or 3 year old deer, he should be about the same size pedicle attachment area as the main beam above the burr. Now if that deer is in his prime, like a 4 or 5 or maybe even a 6 year old deer, that main beam ought to be bigger than what that attachment area is. If that buck happens to be past his prime, say he's 7 or 8 years old, he's going to have a big pedicle attachment area, but literally, again, that main beam is going to be smaller than what that pedicle attachment area is. But what a deer. Can you imagine what that deer is going to look like next year? Man, I can't wait to see what he's going to do. That's one I'm definitely going to come back and look for.
With a successful Texas outing under his belt, Larry heads for a different corner of the whitetail world. With the right combination of herd genetics and farmland habitat, the Mississippi River country of western Illinois has an earned reputation for superb whitetail bucks. Larry relies on the local expertise of Midwest whitetail adventures.
But Illinois is one of those states that's known for really big deer. Now that means they've got some really big deer, but there are also a lot of small deer. There's not a 160 behind every bush, behind every tree, as a lot of people seem to think.
Everybody pictures Illinois to be very flat, and it's not that at all. There's a lot of rolling hills here, and especially in Brown County. Brown and Adams counties definitely got the hills.
Larry sets out with high hopes, knowing that some of the largest bucks in the nation are practically right in his lap.
Hunted all that afternoon and just continually glassing, looking around, hit the horns together a couple of times, thought that might bring something in, did a few grunts, but it just did not seem that we could get any deer to show its face or even a hair or a hide or an antler or anything. Tough afternoon, beautiful day. I mean, cold, clear. You'd think the deer would be moving, and all lights they should. But not really seeing a whole lot. The interesting thing is, too, this is the opening day, I think, of the second gun season they've had here. Very little shooting. We probably heard maybe 8 or 10 shots this morning, counting those that you could hear a long way off, one relatively close. This afternoon, I don't think we heard but about 3 or 4 shots at the most, so the deer really aren't moving all that well.
Winchester's World of Whitetail is brought to you by the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation, education, and ethical hunting worldwide. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. The Buck Bomb blows away traditional scents. Bad Boy Buggies, they'll never hear you coming. And by Wild Game Innovations, nutrition, attraction, and action.
It's day 2 of Larry Wisehoon's search for a Brown County bruiser here in the heartland of big buck territory. But the Illinois weather is fixing to change, causing Mr. Whitetail a little foul weather deja vu.
The young buck way down there. Pretty deer. Just not the one I'm looking for. He just kind of moved on around. The wind must be blowing a little bit differently out there. The buck I'm looking for is at least 5 years old. Tough hunting, really tough hunting. It seemed like every turn that we did, we got hit by weather. Now, usually I feel like I can make things happen, but the weather was just unbelievable. I mean, freezing rain almost the entire time. Every time a raindrop would hit, it would freeze. One time the weather guessers got it right. It has been freezing rain all morning. As soon as the rain hits, it freezes. You can tell by the gun, it's just solid ice. Everything about me found this cover land here, and you can feel it cracking and see it cracking. Trying to keep my pants from getting too wet.
The ice storm endeth, but tomorrow forecast problems anew.
No sooner did I get set up, adjusted for the wind, found a place that I could see a little bit of an area to cover in case anything came through, hit it to this cornfield that's up on top of the hill across this little valley from us, and it starts raining. You know, I'm thinking, yeah, it's just going to be a few little raindrops. It's going to be fine. No big deal. Well, because within about 5 or 6 minutes, not only is it raining, it is thundering. It's lightning. It's lightning striking close to us to where it's lighting up our world. I take off. I find me a little cedar tree that I can hide underneath, and I'm there for just a little while, and it is just absolutely pouring, and it just does not seem like it's going to let up any bit at all. Finally, I say, you know, that's it. I'm out of here, and I take off to the vehicle. But, I mean, there are several little minor frustrations, but it's one of those things that regardless of how frustrated you get, you can't ever give up. You've got to continually try different things, hunt different ways, sit in the same spot a little bit longer, anything that you can do, because you never know.
Well, I give one thing to you. At least you're consistent.
Don't you mean persistent?
No, consistent, as in consistently brain dead.
With one final shot at an Illinois trophy, Larry begins to wonder if he'll so much as catch a glimpse of any deer at all.
It's kind of like the last opportunity that we have that I feel where you might have a chance. So we get out there and get all set up, and here comes the wind. And the wind is blowing, gale force, probably 35 miles an hour. So I'm set up in this little pop-up blind, and the wind's blowing, and I stand up so I can see to where that turnip patch is. I glass, and as I sit back down, and no sooner as I'm about to sit down, this little blind just kind of crumples around me. You gotta laugh at a situation like that. If you can't laugh at yourself, there's something bad wrong with you. You know, sometimes we win. Sometimes we win over the deer, but there are also times when the deer wins.
I don't mind the rain. I don't mind the cold. I don't mind the ice. I don't mind any of the other stuff. And it's just, and it's not like we have hunted hard. You know, we've hunted some what looked like ought to have been good places, and we're just not seeing anything.